Hey, I'm Chris Januszewski and welcome to the Rebellious Times Podcast. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Nancy Fateen, president of Seizmic, California-based family business that helps warehouses earthquake-proof their facilities. Nancy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. Um, I, I'm really interested by the whole seismic thing. So I live in Austin, Texas now. I used to live in the Bay Area, and in the Bay Area, everyone was always talking about, oh, when's the big one coming? When's the big one going to arrive? So it's the only place in the world I've lived where there were ever any discussions of earthquakes. So yeah, I'm really excited to learn about your business today.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I got to tell you, there's a misnomer when it comes to seismic analysis. It does take into consideration earthquakes, and earthquakes are not just specific to California. There are earthquakes everywhere all the time. And seismic analysis really has more to do with safety. Movement can happen anytime. A forklift can hit a wreck, the ground can shift. So really, we're covering more than just earthquake analysis. That's why we've been able to expand into all 50 states and around the world.
Brilliant. Well, let's get into it then. Tell us about your business. What does Seismic do? Who are your customers? What problems are you solving?
So Seismic started out, my dad started the company in 1985 out of our house, just him doing handwritten calculations. He is an engineer by trade, civil structural engineer, bachelor's and master's degree. And he saw a niche in an industry that didn't really have any specialists, which was engineering of storage racks, steel storage racks going into warehouses, distribution centers, retail stores. Um, the people didn't really know that there was a specialty as far as that went. So he made that his focus. And he moved himself out to California because he wanted to get out of the East Coast as quickly as possible into the warmer weather. We're Egyptian, so the warm weather agrees with us.
Fair enough.
Uh, so he started out, never advertised, never did anything. The phone just started ringing. Word of mouth got him where he wanted to be. And as customers asked for more and more help with their projects, they might call on him for engineering and say, do you know anybody that can help us install these racks? And he said, I can figure that out. So he built an installation crew, and then he got his contractor's license so that he could be a licensed contractor facilitating the installation of these. And then in 1998, I started working with the company, and then people started asking, do you know anyone that can help us get the permits for these? And so he said, we can figure that out. And I learned how to get the permits for all these projects. So we started our third division, which handled the permitting across the country. And then 10 years later, my son started working with the company. And the buzzword at that time was inspections. Do you know anyone that can help us with the anchor inspections? Do you know anyone that can come out and do the safety assessments or the annual inspections to make sure the racks are still in good condition? We said, we can help you with that. So we started our fourth division,
So,
which handles the inspections.
quick question there. So, I've been in quite a few warehouses working in e-commerce. I was always really interested to go and see what the customers were shipping, and
Mhm.
I guess to somebody who's not built my own warehouse, I just imagine that you will contract a company to come in, put the racking up for you, or you could buy the racking, put it up yourself, kind of hope for the best. But you talked about permitting and you talked about inspections. So
Yeah.
what are these? How did these factor into warehouses, and are these things that all warehouses should be thinking about?
So it's much like your house, right? Like you can do the work by yourself and put on an addition, and the city's not going to come knocking on your door and say, "What are you doing in there?" But when you go to try and sell your house, there's an issue, or if there's a fire or something like that, now your insurance is not going to pay out. So technically, you're supposed to have an engineer, you're supposed to have a licensed contractor, you're supposed to have permits for the things that you do. They're supposed to make sure that the work is done properly because it's a life safety issue. Now, does everybody do it? No. But eventually, when the cities run low on money and they start saying, okay, inspectors, go out and start going door to door and do your safety inspections, and then they find all this equipment in a facility that's not permitted, they can retroactively ask you to engineer and permit. That's a lot of our business, actually, is a city will go in, a fire department will go in and say, do you have a permit for these racks? And the customer will say, we didn't know we needed to. And they'll say, call Seismic. So, and then we reverse engineer what they have in there and help them get their permits and help them get to a point of compliance, because otherwise they can get red tagged and shut down.
Sounds like an awesome business model, having the local fire brigade as your sales team.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a pretty good reputation around the country with regard to that because they know that our interest is in finding solutions. I used to call myself the problem solver, but now I call myself the solution finder because I think there's a difference, right? Like, it's not just about solving the problems; it's about figuring out a solution so that people can make sure that these things don't happen, and make sure that their investment, because these racks are not inexpensive, right? So making sure their investment in their business, in their equipment, in their people is not going to waste. That they're protecting the longevity of it.
Brilliant. Thank you. And you work with companies of all sizes, right? You have some pretty big customers. I'm not sure if you're allowed to mention them, but I'd love to kind of give viewers an idea of the significant scale that your business has.
Sure. So over the years, we have completed 73,000 ish plus projects across the
Wow.
country, across the world, really. Sal was the first engineer licensed in all 50 states. And we're proud to continue his legacy in that by having 13 other engineers on staff now that maintain their licenses across the 50 states. And in other countries, if you have California's licensing process is so stringent that in other countries they'll often accept a California engineer's stamp as sufficient for engineering in Mexico, in Morocco, in Egypt, in places like that. So we do engineering around the world, and the California stamp is typically accepted. Um, but compliance has always been a big thing for larger names like Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, O'Reilly, AutoZone. But now it's trickling into the smaller businesses, the companies that have one or two warehouses. But we really saw a big boom after COVID when everybody went to online shipping because all these DCs were popping up left and right. We did 80 Amazon distribution centers in 2020 alone, helping with their platforms, their conveyor systems, their storage racks. So it's not just storage racks, it's any steel equipment that goes into a facility. And even our installation division, the second division, the 1995 division, that has grown now into a custom and specialty fabrication division. So there are a lot of manufacturers out there, but they usually sell from a catalog. So we do custom builds. So maybe they say, we want a platform, but it needs to be specific fit to what we have in our facility, any obstructions we might have, so we can do those kind of things. We don't try to compete with the big boys, but we do find our own home in the specialty fabrication area.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit now because I'm always, really excited to talk to entrepreneurs that are part of a family business because I grew up in a family business. So my granddad came over from Poland to the UK during World War II as a young man, got his education, started a business producing paint. It's paint that could be used on leather, right? And so I grew up in a factory environment. 50 years he had the business, and by the end of it, we were producing leather goods, leather phone cases. It was, and eventually Chinese imports kind of shut down the whole business model. He retired, and that was that. So, but my experience as a kid in a family business was, I was there every summer vacation. I was there. I'd go there after school. I'd see the highs of getting an order from a big client. I'd see the lows of everybody in the family kind of screaming at each other and taking work home and stuff. I'd just love to hear about your experiences growing up in a family business and still being in it and kind of flying the flag.
Sure. So I'm the oldest of two girls. And I'm a daddy's girl, always have been. Learned to play golf so I could spend time with my dad. Learned to
Oh,
love material handling so I could spend time with my dad. Learned to fix the sprinklers and the sink and all these things so I could spend time with my dad. So I was his Home Depot buddy, his helper on the weekends with home projects. I would come into the office anytime I didn't have school, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. So even if I was coming and taking the big plans and drawing on the back or coloring in the detailed drawings, I was exposed to it for my entire life, quite literally. We have a joke in our industry because a lot of people will say, well, none of us grew up thinking we were going to be in material handling. And I go, I did. Because I really did. And I think my boys do too. I have two boys, they're 18 and 21 now. And I never forced them to come into this company, just like my dad never forced me. This is a source of pride for us. Like, this is our legacy, and why wouldn't we want to be involved in it? Like, I remember telling my dad when I was 18, but I don't want to be an engineer. And he said, you don't have to be an engineer. There's so many different things you can do here. So I majored in organizational management, and I'm working on my master's in supply chain and logistics currently. And same with my boys. Michael's running the inspections division. James is working in the fabrication division and working his way up in there. So there's something for everyone. It doesn't have to be so narrow-minded. And I think the fact that my dad never pushed us into any particular direction, and then I did the same for my boys, really made it a lot easier for us. We really enjoy spending time together. My dad still comes into the office a couple of times a week because I think this is really something that we love to do. And not many people get excited about storage racks, but I think we just get excited about the problem solving, about the solution finding. And I used to sit with my dad and do his puzzle magazines, the logic puzzles and the
Right.
crossword puzzles and all of those. And this is just always one big puzzle, right? Every time we have a project, we consider it a puzzle, and we like to work together. So the conflicts have been few and far between, possibly more so in the last few years since I took over. But even then, I can count on one hand the times when we've butted heads, I guess, because it's that changing of the guards, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's been the captain of this ship for so long, and even though he trusts and wants me to take over, he's learned that I'm not necessarily going to do everything exactly as he would do it. Now, I do have a tattoo. I don't know if you can see it. It says WWSD. That's in Sal's handwriting. That means, what would Sal do? So I do have
Okay.
that tattooed so that I always remind myself to consider what his approach would be. But I remind him that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it your way. I will always preserve your legacy, but I'm going to be creating my own as well.
I love it. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And the fact that you've got this relationship with your dad and you've built this, wildly successful business and you're keeping it going and putting your own stamp on. I worked in corporate for many years and obviously, it gave me a good lifestyle, but I think the whole family business side to be around day to day, the people you love, the people you care about, and to be building something together is a whole different ballgame. So, I love to hear that. And I hope, more people will keep going down that path and the opportunity stays open for them in the US to do that.
Thank you.
Um, when we spoke previously, you talked about obviously your business is doing really well. And some of that kind of was influenced potentially by policies that maybe, you know, have a little conflict with your own personal perspectives. I wonder if you'd be open to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So obviously the political landscape is a little bit tumultuous these days. And while we are benefiting from it, when they make it more challenging to do work internationally, now a lot of the manufacturing has come back this way and come back to us, and it is beneficial. So it does create kind of this ethical conflict internally, and all we can do is try to still provide a good service to our clients, not take advantage of them, not handcuff them to ridiculous prices because we can or anything like that, and do what we can to balance the scales by giving back to our local communities, by way of maybe offering. I've gotten involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and we've started to offer reduced and free inspections and repairs to local nonprofits that have shelving and storage in their facilities, libraries, Habitat for Humanity, Red Cross, things like that have facilities that maybe don't, the fixtures might get neglected, or they might not have the funds available to them to do annual safety inspections and repairs, or training for their team on how they can do a lot of these inspections and repairs themselves. So we are this year spearheading a lot of those local boots on the ground efforts and working with the local schools to build internship programs and kind of give back in any way we can to kind of balance the scales and make us feel like we can still sleep at night.
I love that. That's so fantastic. We're in the United States and it's the land of opportunity, right? And you're taking advantage of opportunity and that you've built a great business. But there's a lot of challenges here as well. So the fact that you actually get out in the community and give back is a wonderful thing. So I respect that.
Oh, thank you.
Can I switch gears into a kind of a random question here? It's not even
Mm,
related to business. Um,
sure.
so your family's from Egypt, right?
They are.
In Egypt, there are some pyramids that are pretty well known. I
Yes.
I spend a lot of time thinking about a lot of random things and things that don't quite look right in the world, and I have no idea how they moved those giant stones up there onto the pyramids. Do you have a perspective? Does somebody with an Egyptian background have a better insight than everybody else and know
I
how it was
mean, there are so many theories, and that's all they can really be is theories, right? Because there's so much more complex than even what we can see. And recent studies and radar and everything have shown a lot of things going on beneath the surface and areas within there that still haven't been opened for many reasons. But so as far as how they were built, it's all speculative, right? Like you can say aliens, you can say that had advanced technologies that got lost over the years. They're from an engineering perspective, it's not something that we could duplicate today. From a
isn't that
contractor
wild?
standpoint, it's not something there's no way. Not using no tools, like, we'd have to use big bulldozers and earth movers and things like that in order to be able to accomplish it. So not knowing what the landscape was like then and how these stones that were not even available in that area that had to travel down the Nile to get there. So these were materials that were not even found in that geographic region. So there is a lot to be said about it, but we do take a lot of pride in there. We go back and visit our family there every other year, as often as possible. And my boys take a lot of pride in their Egyptian heritage as well. My dad came here after his bachelor's degree. He got his bachelor's degree in Cairo, came here for his master's degree and stayed here. And my mom came here in high school and finished her degree here as well. So they were both born there and they came, and to me it was truly the American dream. Like they built a life for themselves here and are actually we like to say the pyramids are built to last, like seismic is built to last. Like we worked on building something that was recession proof and pandemic proof, and we have all of these divisions so that they can kind of balance each other out. So if engineering is ever soft, fabrication can pick up the slack. It really works like a family. All 78 of us now, 78 of us in this company working together to build our own pyramids.
Love it. Yeah, and anything to do with the American dream. I've got my own American dream I've been working on for a while now, and there's immigration is something that's obviously in the news and people have perspectives on it. But what I do know from experience is that when an immigrant comes over motivated and kind of got that fire and nothing to lose because they don't have anything, it's incredible what can be achieved, and your dad's and your mum and dad are a prime example of that.
For sure.
So, Nancy, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If somebody wants to get hold of you, contact you, find Seismic, where should they go?
LinkedIn is always a good place to start. Nancy Fateen. Our website is seismicinc.com, and it's seismic with a Z in the middle, SEIZMIC, just to make it stand out a little. We celebrated 40 years last year, and our motto last year was shaking things up since 1985. And this year we're really digging into the built to last motto. But yeah, feel free if you have questions, if it's something that you think you might need or might be interested in learning more about. Education is one of my passions, and so I love to teach people more about what we do, why we do it, and how our services might be helpful to you. They can really there are ways that they can kind of reduce your insurance costs, reduce your life safety risk. Make it really a protection of your investment in your property. So, love to help and show people more about us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. All the best.
Thank you.